Good morning. You might not be listening to this in the morning, but it's morning for me. Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today's topic is optimism. What a good topic. It leaves me very optimistic. I was thinking this morning about my trip that I took with my daughter to Europe. We did one of those like high school tour trips where they have the entire like 10 days planned for you. And it's very, very exhausting. My daughter told me like halfway through the trip, she said, "You are the happiest person on this trip." And I was like, it's real. It's, I am truly just absolutely grateful. Every minute of that trip, I was just grateful. And that's what it came out as. It looked like optimism to other people. And I was. Um, my program that I talk about at nauseum, that's why we're here. It allows me to look at things like that. Um, I think one of the reasons that I was so positive and grateful during that trip was because it was just the perfect example of what life can be like when I don't drink. Um, I was able to experience and be fully present in everything that we did. Um, I grew up near the DC area, so every field trip that we took was to DC to a museum or the zoo or something like that. Like it was a really great place to grow up, I think. But I remember going to these museums and just being like, oh, my back hurt. You know, I was a kid and I wasn't going to read any of the little placards in front of the exhibits. I was just looking, I was just looking at the cool things. I don't know that I was internalizing. I was probably internalizing more, like digesting the information about more than I realized. But in Europe, we went to the art museum, and um, I remember just, and my daughter too, like we went from piece to piece and we were reading like what each piece was about. We were in awe. Um, my daughter's a lot more mature than I was at her age. And it was just an experience I had never had my whole life. Um, it was amazing, and it meant a lot to me that she could see that because at the end of the day, I wanted to give her the best experience. And I believe that I gave everything that I had, you know. And I do this because my program helps me to make the best out of things. By putting down the drink, I was able to be available for guidance from my higher power. Lifetime listeners, you know that my higher power is everything outside of myself, including my own concept of God. And when I put down the drink, I'm available to everything outside of myself. When I'm drinking, I am only available to what's going on between my ears. That's all I can hear, and that's all I can see. And today, I'm able to find gratitude not only in something so exciting like going to Europe with my daughter, but I find gratitude in hard places too. Um, I shared with you yesterday that it was a difficult time for my family and for some folks in my family, and it it's going to be a difficult time for many weeks, months, and years to come when you learn how to digest the loss of somebody that you care very much about. Um, the program has allowed me to find gratitude in even those places. It's hard. It's really hard to find gratitude in those places. Um, One thing that I hear people say frequently when we lose somebody that we love um, is to be thankful for the time that you had. And I struggled with that. I still struggle, it's because I'm a human being, but I struggle with that uh, finite amount of time that we have with somebody. Um, it's just difficult for me. But I'm learning how to find gratitude in that kind of difficult place. I have found a lot of gratitude more and more as time goes forward in my stroke recovery. I've absolutely found it in sobriety, and that's why I'm fairly adamant. I never thought I'd get to this place where I say this, but I'm adamant about saying I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor, because that word is the most important part of that phrase. Um, Whatever has happened to me in my life, what matters the most is that I find gratitude. Um, when I'm not drinking, I am available. Like I said, I'm open to being present for whatever is right in front of me. It gives me so much more time to do the things that are enjoyable, to do the things that life is all about. I thought life was all about having fun, feeling good, um, but without having a glass attached to my hand constantly. I'm available to move about, and I'm available to participate in life. And that feeling of being hungover the next day when you've got to run to McDonald's and get the greasiest sandwich there is in order to treat your hangover. Or somebody mentioned this morning about going outside on a cold day like this when you're hungover actually feels good. This morning, I walked my dogs outside to go to do their potties, and I had on this sweatshirt and I had my hoodie over my head, because I was cold, because I was sober. And there's gratitude there. There's gratitude in being able to go outside on a cold day and be cold. How funny is that? There were some memory bubbles that I had this morning when I was listening to folks sharing about their experience, strength, and hope. And one of the memory bubbles that came up for me was one time I was riding back with my husband, not the husband I have now, but the kid's dad. I was riding back from West Virginia. We lived in Leesburg, and our kids were, I think, so I only had, I, yeah, I think I only had my son at this point, And we had gone out to a party in West Virginia with one of my coworkers. I think it was a kegger because that's what we did back then. And we were riding home. I was almost home and I was sick. And I had eaten a whole bunch of cauliflower before we left the party. So just imagine. Anyway, we were on the last little piece before we got home, and I rolled my window down. We were stopped at a stoplight on the bypass, and he had just started going like the arrow turned green to turn left. And it was night out, and there were people waiting coming the other way at the stoplight with their headlights on. So he starts turning. I roll the window down and I just yacked out the window all over the side of the car, right in front of all of those headlights. Um, that's one of those memories that I'm like, ugh, you know, like how did I let myself get to that point? But that was way, way before I even had an inkling that I might be an alcoholic. I should have known I was at that point, but I was years from even considering that I was an alcoholic. But today, instead of going out, I guess back then I was going out and being around like-minded people, right? I was going out and being with people who wanted to drink as much as possible, just like me. And there wasn't a lot of gratitude there. There wasn't a lot of optimism there. Um, the only thing I was looking forward to was the next drink. And I can tell you the next day when I had to wake up and hang out with my toddler at that point. Well, he wasn't even a toddler then. I think he was like less than a year. Like, I'm sure I was just laying on the floor hungover for that poor little guy, you know? Where was the optimism then? One of those things that I look back on and I try not to regret is are those mornings when there's a limited number of those mornings that we get with those tiny little babies. Like tiny little babies, they love the morning. And there's so many of them that I wasn't available. I was there, I was present, I was in the room, but I wasn't optimistic. I wasn't hopeful. I wasn't looking forward to the day. I wasn't being silly. Um, and I do regret that. Am I ever going to get out of the place where I regret that? I don't know. If I'm being real, I don't know. I know a lot of times I try to talk about how much the program has come true for me, or the promises have come true. There are a few that I don't know that I'll ever not regret because I'll never have those opportunities back again. Um, Unless my kids have grandchildren, then I have another opportunity. I'll probably get the opportunity to be the first person awake and I get to sit with those babies. So maybe I will. Maybe in time, as I continue to grow in my sobriety and continue to experience new things as a sober woman, that stuff will come in time. So maybe I can be optimistic about that, huh? Um, so today I was talking about being around like-minded people when I was drinking. Today I'm around like-minded people that are optimistic, like-minded people that that talk about this stuff that I'm talking about now and share what their experience is with it. Um, and we learn how to grow together. We learn how to deal with things together. There was a woman in my network yesterday who picked up the phone and called me. And the first thing I said when I answered was, "You did it. You picked up the phone," because that was a big deal. And I think we should celebrate those things a little more. Those little things like, I'm not happy. I'm going to pick up the phone and call somebody. And when we do it, pat ourselves on the back for, wow, I did it. You know, my daughter and I sat up too late last night, talking and just talking about life. And then we ended up, uh, how should I word this? We ended up talking about politics. And more than talking about it, we were researching. That's what we were doing, trying to get more informed about the ballad. Yeah. So um, it was maybe another one of those experiences where I'm building new memories because I will always remember these things. When I'm, 10 years from now, I'm going to look back and be like, I was there, I was able to be present for her. I think that's really my overriding message today is being sober. I'm able to be present for myself. I'm able to be hopeful and have optimism. Another thing I was thinking of this morning is I thought prayer is really a time of self-reflection. And I thought, is that accurate? Because prayer is when we're focusing on our higher power, but we're not, it's not all outward looking. Like it is a connection. So it very much requires us to be self-reflective during that time. And what I was thinking of was people who do not have a higher power, a concept of their own concept of God. And if that time of self-reflection that somebody who prays would take, is that missing from somebody's life who doesn't pray? Like, is there a way, like meditation would be a good example, to sit and be self-reflective without prayer? Um, I think meditation is what, but the thing is that what I've learned is that prayer is uh speaking to God and meditation is listening. So I just don't know. I it's the way that I've adopted in my program because it gives me the balance that I need for myself. And I've talked to you guys about, I've gone through years of not knowing who I'm talking to if I'm when I'm praying, but I just do it anyway. Um, and I've developed this my own concept of what is happening, what I'm thinking of. And that's what works for me. Um, and then another thing I was thinking about, I'm kind of all over the place, but that's fine because we do whatever the hell we want here. Um, Step 11 is it tells us, it gives us that guidance for self-reflection. And then I was I was comparing how when a baby animal is born in the wild, they watch other animals, their parents, to learn how to behave. And what I have done in my program is the same thing. I was new to the program, and what I did was I sat back and I watched how the other sober people behave. I didn't know how to live sober. I didn't know how to do things without holding a glass in my hand. It could sound bizarre to somebody who's not an alcoholic, but I only learned how to do it by watching others. I only learned how to do this prayer and self-reflection and meditation and all that stuff by watching others. I mean, truly, I didn't know what I was doing. I just observed. And I also observed the attitude of the other recovering alcoholics, just like I watched the attitude in my stroke recovery groups. I watched the attitude in my vestibular support group. I learn how to live more joyfully. I learn how to accept. I learn how to grieve in a healthy way. I learn by watching others. Um, and I take what I can and I leave what I don't need. Um, but by doing this, my default outlook on life has changed. It has been like, I feel like I've been in training, you know? And this morning, I'm the secretary for the weekend AA meetings. And I try to be super positive when I do it. I'm like, I'm Rachel, I'm an alcoholic, and I get to be your weekend secretary. And I'm super enthusiastic and stuff because what I want is to give back what was so freely given to me. Since I know that I learned how to behave in a more positive, serene, sober, happy, way by watching others, I can give that back. I can show that kind of an attitude so that others can adopt it as well. And I try to do that everywhere. That's one of the reasons why I was so positive at work was because I wanted to spread it. Because so often I was walking around work and everybody's just kind of drudging. Everybody's just kind of getting things done. And I'm like, we spend the majority of our lives here. Um, why not find a way to be joyful and be happy? And I was able to do that because I loved my job. But I think my reminder today is to try to spread that optimism and positivity and gratitude, not keep it to myself. And Lord knows everybody needs it right now. So that's all I've got today. My daughter's in town, so I'm going to get my hairs did, and you will tomorrow I'm going to tune in with my hair is going to be half as long. I'm going to get it cut like right above my shoulders, I think is the plan. So that's exciting. It's always fun to get a new look. So that's what's happening today. Tomorrow I'm getting acupuncture. So wish me luck. I've never done that before. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.